Welcome to the News and Why It Matters. I am Sarah Gonzalez-Stuberger. What's your top story today?
My top story today, Sarah, is we talk about how like CNN, for example, has really biased coverage. I'm going to attempt to quantify that today. Let me show you how bad this actually is.
Okay, all right. And Mr. Pat Gray.
Planned Parenthood has a new president, or is going to soon. They got rid of their old one, and we'll get into that a little bit.
Okay, and special guest Lathan Watts from First Liberty. What's your top story?
In the liberal, utopian, tolerant California, anti-Semitic vandalism against one of our clients. Orthodox Jewish rabbi. Yeah.
All right, a lot to get into. First, we want to thank our sponsor, American Financing. If you are in the market, you're buying a home, or you're trying to do a refi, you need a loan, whatever the case may be, American Financing is the place to go. Stu, you did business, well, they wanted to do business with you, and you were like, I want to do the craziest thing possible. And they were like, we don't recommend that.
No, they apparently give you only like responsible mortgages, I guess is their policy. I like
pretty sound policy to have.
Yeah, it's funny too, because we've talked about this a million times, right? Because I did call them, and it was down to a couple of different companies. And I really wanted, like, I love the old days of 2005 when you have like zero down and they, you don't have to pay for 16 years. So I was chasing that type of mortgage, which they said was not a good idea. Kind of the reason they survived the financial crisis, unlike any other mortgage broker. But so I went and I talked to them, and they said, look, that's not really what we do. I understand if you want to go do that, you'd have to go with this other company. So I did go with that other company at the end, which I thought was kind of an amazing thing from them. I mean, they basically let me run out of there without my business.
That's a lot of integrity that we really don't want to, we won't stand by that loan and we won't give it to you.
That's not what they do. But I was laughing because after I got the loan from the other company, it's already been sold to a whole different company. So now I had to change my, they're like, let's get out of this while we still can. So, I mean, American Financing is probably just the right way to go.
Yeah, if you're looking for a responsible place to go for your mortgage, you can go to AmericanFinancing.net, or you can call 800-906-2440. All right, Stu.
CNN. I happened to get an alert from some story today. I think it was, I can't remember what it was. And I clicked on the CNN app. Now, look, this is a huge mistake, and this is my fault for going there in the first place. But I'm absolutely amazed at how little they try to even attempt to be fair. I mean, there's plenty of criticism to go along to for Republicans and Democrats. If you're going to be a political network, right, you can cover these stories. You can say things that are good about Democrats. You can say things that are bad about Democrats. You can say things that are good about Republicans. You can say things that are bad about Republicans. There's a lot of categories. Not for CNN. The only thing they seem to do is say bad things about Donald Trump or Republican policies. And I decided to just go through the app today, and let me just highlight the stories. They do have some completely unrelated from politics stories, like, for example, the new Corvette, apparently the design came out today. They had a story about that. So I didn't include those. But this is everything from top to bottom when it comes to political coverage on their site. First story is this one. Don Lemon and Chris Cuomo reenact Trump's 13 seconds of silence.
Oh, my God.
Now, look, it kind of seems like a weird thing to promote, but if you had Chris Cuomo in your primetime lineup, you'd praise silence, too. You're like, the best part of the show is when they were quiet for 13 seconds. But I mean, that is, okay, ridiculous. Right, that's story number one. Let's go to story number two. Here it is. The 51 most outrageous lines from Donald Trump's repugnant North Carolina rally. Now, it is an analysis piece, but repugnant is in the headline. Again, this is a news site, supposedly. Underneath, Chris Cuomo, the president should not be a punk.
Oh, my gosh.
Trump claims he disavows send her back chant despite remaining silent and starting racist attacks. And CNN's Brianna Keilar, Trump is lying, watch the tape. Okay, so that's now, wow. This is really balanced. So, okay, let's go on to the next one. Next one is crowd surprises Representative Omar at airport with new chant. So take a break here. Now she's getting chanted at the airport, and of course their analysis of this is the worst thing that's ever happened, and this poor woman is here. There's not a moment where because you can cover Representative Omar a couple different ways, right? Yes, you can talk about her getting this chant, but why does she have the chant? Is there any focus on, can you break down to your liberal audience maybe why people think she hates America so much? Could that be part of the coverage? Of course not at all.
Now the chant at the airport, because they were excited to see her.
Yeah.
They welcomed her with open arms.
Exactly.
In the airport.
Are
they talking about the chant at the rally, though?
Well, I think at the airport was the positive one, right?
Right.
And she's getting a positive chant. The point is positive coverage about Representative Omar, right? Next up, Democrats plot a new plan to press Mueller on Trump's alleged crimes. All right, next one is AOC confronts DHS chief. Did you see photoshopped images of my violent rape? Now, first of all, I would hope the guy didn't go to the site to see the photoshopped images.
Jeez.
And can we stop with this? We've talked about this one before. Yes, it is true. The internet has people who will say really nasty things about people in power. It's kind of what the internet is.
Or even not in power.
Yeah, about anybody.
Do you think you could spot anything nasty about you or me online? Or
I
Glenn?
just saw several things about me on Instagram that I was tagged in this morning.
Really?
Oh yeah, they take me like bad screenshots of me and put it into this collage.
Isn't that
and,
precious?
Isn't
It's
that sweet?
adorable.
Yes.
I'm like,
It's
get
adorable.
a job.
I know.
I mean, we have to call every horrible name imaginable,
Yeah.
right? And like, this happens all the time. Is that a notable news story? I can't imagine it is. How about this one? Is this a notable news story? Convenience store clerk says customers need to go back to their country in video conversation. What the hell is CNN covering what a convenience store clerk does? That is not a news story at all. We have convenience store clerks. Look.
Is he a former senator? A
No.
U.S. senator now turned convenience store
Oh,
clerk?
you're going to be surprised. It's not,
That would be a news story. But
Yeah, it would be.
Because then he's doing something productive.
Right.
All right, next up, let's see, is this one. Compare Trump's rally with Omar's town hall. Right, so this, think about what this moment is. You have a moment where things kind of get out of control at this rally, right? And then you have a basically teleprompter read speech to try to take the high road. Yeah, let's compare those two events because that makes a lot of sense. Next up, if you go back to this previous one, because I want to highlight the stories underneath. Angela Merkel stands in solidarity with Congresswomen attacked by Trump. Trump, Omar, and democracy.
Wow.
This is a struggle about the identity of the United States. Lemon, will Trump rally chanters be proud in 10 years? How Maya Angelou in 1978 provided one woman's response to Trump in 2019. What? Now, again, I've provided you every piece of news or analysis so far on the CNN app. There hasn't been one that has even been an attempt at balance. They've all just been destructive slams on Trump or one of his policies. Next up, see Lindsey Graham's head-spinning flip on Trump and racism. Let's see what the next one is. He tried for years to join his 13-year-old daughter in the U.S. Now they're finally reunited at her deathbed. Again, we're too mean to immigrant story. Now, this is the first one that was neutralish, which is, here's the lineup for the Democratic debates, right, okay? Which, again, that's probably the story that CNN should be doing.
Parenthetically, they should have Trump sucks.
Yeah, right. That's very true. Then Cummings erupts on Trump's DHS chief, like he's just screaming at some Republican. Next up, FBI warrants show Trump's close involvement in hush money effort. Let me keep this one here for a second. This is a fantastic one. What is the actual story they're talking about? Trump was cleared of the hush money problems. The only person who is going to get in trouble over this is Michael Cohen. The way they present that news, which is not Hope Hicks, not Donald Trump, not any of the no in the Trump organization, no one in the campaign had any problems except Michael Cohen, who's already in prison. And their take of that is the FBI warrants show the Trump's close involvement. And by the way, the Hope Hicks part of that is they have a phone call that happened with Hope around the time they talked about it. They have no evidence that she has said anything about it, and as she testified, she said she didn't. Next up, House chaplain prays to cast dark spirits from Congress.
Oh my gosh.
And Chris Cuomo goes on to cover this. It was like a seance because the prayer was we need to get dark spirits and these negative feelings out of Congress.
I'm surprised that they acknowledged that the House has a chaplain.
That's true.
Yeah,
they
no
did actually
kidding.
show him on camera too. But I guess he said it was because of racism, and then they went on to mock it and play a clip of The Exorcist. Okay. Next up, Trump. This is the first one that I thought was okay, this is a normal thing. Trump picks son of former Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia as the next Secretary of Labor. Now that is news, right? Antonin Scalia, not necessarily seen as a positive figure on the left, but seen as a very positive figure on the right. Of course, when you read the story, it's nothing about Acosta and Epstein. So the story did not really reflect, it said he's going to be the new guy. Why? Probably because Trump's a child molester. It was basically the take. And then the last one, I tried to get to a positive thing. This guy, they did show there is a black Trump supporter, but his message for the president, of course, is, why are you being so bad? Why are you being so racist? Stop doing this. I can't convince my friends to like you because you're being such a jerk. That is the entire app.
Wow.
Now, look, I understand CNN is liberal, and that's, look, we are conservative. Like, there's nothing wrong with having a point of view. But when it's that overwhelming, it shows not only just a bias, but a complete obsession. Trump totally lives in their heads, and they are completely obsessed with him at all times. He controls their life. Mm-hmm. Instead of reporting actual news, it's nonstop bashing, and then they wonder why their ratings are down. They wonder why, when they do have a piece of news, no one will take it seriously. Mm-hmm. That's why. And that's just one day, but that's every day at CNN.
Yeah, Lathan, you want to weigh in on that?
I watched this list and I'm like, there are other countries in the world. There's some things going on in the Middle East with Iran. It might even be another chance for you to bash the president. Could you just maybe talk about the news?
Yeah, diversify a little bit.
Yeah.
How much of this is even newsworthy about the guy that you're always talking about?
Yeah, most of that wasn't newsworthy, right?
No. No.
The chant thing is a story, and I can understand people covering it, but you need 25
The convenience
different
store
angles.
clerk thing was not a story.
That's
That's
not
not a story. Stop it. And you mentioned that they've got a right to have opinions. Yeah, on opinion shows, which is what we are. Mm-hmm. That we're opinion people. We're not journalists, and neither is Glenn. And we say that all the time. They're supposedly journalists, and so that's why that is so despicable.
And it's so dangerous because you see how they're shaping the message for all of their readers.
Yep.
Yeah, and CNN again was supposed to be the balanced one, right? Like we all know they lean left, but like leaning left and giving me your best attempt at news coverage is something I can handle. I'm an adult, right? New York Times is kind of like that. New York Times is obviously a left-wing publication, but like you read the New York Times and you can also find real news in there, and sometimes there's a tilt
it's
to
palatable.
it. Yeah, exactly. That is to the left of where MSNBC was.
Yeah.
4 years ago or 8 years ago. They have completely gone off the rails because of Donald Trump. And look, Trump obviously likes the fight. He likes the kind of manipulating the media. But they have bit every piece of bait with him. They can't stop themselves. Is it because of clicks? Maybe. I don't know what the reasoning is, but it's embarrassing. That's an embarrassing segment.
Mm-hmm.
Every single story is the same story and with the same take from the same people. Like that's not even an attempt at news anymore.
And the racist thing gets me the most, I think, because they're not even allowing for it to be a possibility that he may not actually be racist. Yeah. And they said, what was the one that it said his racist remarks or, he said, he didn't say anything racist.
Yeah, look, you can claim that. If Rachel Maddow wants to claim that, I think that's totally within her bounds to say that. But can we stop and stop pretending we don't understand who Donald Trump is. He's a guy that when someone pisses him off, he bashes him, right? You think, is Justin Amash
the opposite is also true.
Yeah, exactly.
If somebody praises
him, he says good things.
He says good things about him.
Even if he doesn't really like the guy, like Kim Jong-il or Kim Jong-un, he still says nice things about him. And look at the opposite, where Justin Amash, you think Jeff Flake a person of color? Because he's trashed him a million times too, because they don't like each other. Yeah. This is what Trump does. And the media has this little thing that they like to pull, which is every time Trump gets in a disagreement with someone who is a person of color, they act as if the motivation is racist. But it's like, if he's doing it to all people, all races, Mika Brzezinski, is she a person of color too? He does it all the time. And so we know this is his pattern. You can be happy or unhappy with it. It's not my favorite part of his presidency. But the idea that we're going to act and fake as if we understand his motivation because for a couple of weeks we'll get a cycle and a bunch of clicks out of it, it's a despicable trait for a news organization. And they really need to do something about it. They won't, but they really should.
All right. Planned Parenthood's new president when we come back.
Hopefully they'll go out of business as a result of it. The ratings.
That's what I think. Nobody is thinking about the long game.
Before we get back into it, I want to thank our sponsor, Relief Factor. So Relief Factor has been a godsend for us here at BlazeTV because it makes Glenn tolerable. He was in a lot of pain for us. Was that not fair?
You're very strong on that statement. Relief Factor is a great product, but tolerable? I don't. I mean, tolerable-ish.
As
Better.
tolerable
More
as Glenn Beck could be.
Could be.
Plus, he was pretty reprehensible even before the pain.
Yeah, that's
Let's
true.
face it.
But it's
We
done
could do this on
wonders.
his network.
I know, it's done wonders for his pain. It's done wonders for my pain. I was in a car accident a bunch of years ago, and it just messed up my neck, my knee, a whole bunch of stuff. And Relief Factor has done wonders for me. A bunch of other people in the building. It is 100% drug-free, and it targets the inflammation in your body, which is, of course, the root cause of your pain. So if you're in pain, you're just living in pain, and you think there's no way out, or you're taking prescription drugs and you don't like doing it, or you're taking prescription drugs and they cost a bunch of money and they're not working. Try Relief Factor. You can get the 3-week quick start pack right now for $19.95. 70% of the people who use it go on to keep ordering more. The odds are in your favor that it will work for you. Go to relieffactor.com, or you can call 800-500-8384.
I'm curious if you took your Relief Factor today with alcohol. Is that how you swallowed it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's Friday. I had
Friday,
to.
right?
Hello. All right, Pat,
Yes.
the new Planned Parenthood president. She was ousted already.
Ousted. Yeah, after
Already?
8 months in the third trimester of her residency, she was terminated. So
Sad.
it's really kind
Fitting.
it's appropriate.
43 weeks, right?
It's actually
Just 43
yes,
weeks.
Right.
It's actually kind of appropriate.
It is.
But apparently, Planned Parenthood directors felt that she wasn't abortion-y enough.
Really? That's the
yeah.
reason?
Yeah, she wasn't quite as abortion-y as they liked her to be. Not enough babies are dying under your watch. You've got to go.
I hate it when that happens.
Me too.
Jeez.
I mean, you wanted a Planned Parenthood president that wants to kill every baby, don't you? I mean, really, and that apparently wasn't in her heart. But the other thing was she refused to admit that men might get pregnant too. And that's apparently, according to some of the insiders, one of the things that led to her termination. I mean,
Well, they are the party of science.
They are, clearly.
so they want to promote and take out the word she and her in their ads and their literature and replace it with they and them.
I'm going to get a tick. They're going to give me a tick from this.
I know.
I can't.
I know.
It's embarrassing.
It is embarrassing because we've gone so far as a society we can't even admit that men can't get pregnant. Men will never need an abortion.
Never.
Not ever. A man will never need an abortion. I know that's quite a limb to climb out on.
I just want to
But
know
I'm
why.
willing to go there.
Why are you so hateful?
About men not being able to have babies. I don't know. We're looking into it.
I'm fascinated by this. So is it the real reason that she would not go far enough? Is that like a confirmed reason?
Yeah, she wasn't aggressive enough, according to them.
Think about this for a second. Like, here's a person who is not pro-life here. This is a person who is willing to take the presidency of Planned Parenthood, and they've gone
definitely
too far
pro-abortion.
for her. And I said her. That's amazing, though. I mean, like, because you don't take a moderate on abortion and they get to the head of Planned Parenthood. You're taking someone who is a huge believer in the cause.
That's what I thought was so fascinating about this. That's how extreme everything's becoming in this society. We've got to wake up and fight back. And I think, especially in the abortion battle, conservatives are kind of waking up. You know, we've mentioned this before. That's territory we ceded to the left for a really long time. And that was wrong to do. We shouldn't have ever done that. But we felt it was too divisive. We weren't going to win any friends doing it that way. Well, the homosexual activists never let go of their agenda. They kept pounding it the whole time, and it worked for them. We should have learned something from that, and hopefully we have now.
Now, I will say, I think that part of the reason that America is waking up to this is because they've gone so far.
Yeah.
Right? So I think it's, I mean, I don't want to call it a blessing, but if you were to come up with a positive out of how radical they've gotten.
Is it maybe it is waking people up?
Right. I think it's what finally needed to shake people and say, hello, like, do you see what's happening here?
Well, Glenn's talked about
to
this
birth.
quite a bit. I don't know if on this show, but on radio, he's talked about the tipping point we're reaching, right? He thinks we're getting toward that they've gone so extreme that we're reaching a tipping point where it's going to tip over and go the other way. And I'm hoping and praying that's true.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Every day, it's just more and more bizarre.
Yeah.
You know, I think could be another factor in this that nobody is really talking about. If you look at her predecessor, Cecile Richards,
Yes, Richards.
her message about Planned Parenthood was women's health all day, every day. We're a women's health organization. Look at all the other things that we do. Yes, we do abortion, but we do all this other stuff.
It's a lie, but that was her position.
Exactly, exactly. But my point is, when I think it's Wynn, I think is her last name.
Yeah, it is.
When she took over, not long after that, she had a quote, and I'm spacing on the quote, where she basically said, "No, Planned Parenthood is in the abortion business." And it was the complete opposite of what they had been saying for many, many years. And she kind of, accidentally told the truth. And now, a few months later, she's out.
She's been terminated.
I think the pronoun issue might be a pretext.
A smoke screen?
Yeah, that they may have gotten some feedback.
Maybe.
You know what? I think we need to go back to Cecile Richards' way, and this
Maybe.
lady is not going to do it.
Yeah. And try to turn back into a health clinic.
Right, to make it at least seem that way to people, because
Right.
it's hard to win when you're saying you're an abortion hut, essentially.
Right.
One other thing I thought was interesting on this front is that there was I think it was the New York Times that did this, which was they did a map of what the country looks like if Roe versus Wade gets overturned. Some obviously states are going to ban abortion, but most of them probably aren't, to be fair. And they went through and they decided to figure out what the largest distance was you'd have to drive to get an abortion in the entire United States. It would be.
Was it 5,500 miles?
It was not. It was not 5,500 miles, which would be really long. You'd have to be a really circuitous
That'd be
route.
unfair.
Yeah. No. It was. If you happen to be a resident of, I think it was eastern North Dakota, you would have to drive about 3.5 hours.
You confused me. Is there an eastern North Dakota?
Yeah, North Dakota's a state.
Yeah.
It was the eastern part of that state.
Part of that.
Yeah.
So that's sort of like I-35W headed south.
Yes, it's like that. It was a little confusing, but I mean, it is in North Dakota.
Okay.
And it would be like a 3.5 hour drive. Now, what we're saying, so think about
From where?
From eastern
What if
North
I'm
Dakota.
driving
I
from
mean,
here?
I just don't understand. The point is, and I think you're helping me make it so eloquently, is, we talk about Roe versus Wade being overturned, and the left talks about it like is this apocalypse.
Yeah.
Like, they are saying themselves, the worst case scenario is you have to drive 3.5 hours to get an abortion. That is the worst case scenario.
It's amazing.
Like, I'm not happy with that worst case scenario at all. I want to be completely gone. But like, this idea that this is some crazy apocalypse, that you need to have these, make people think that it's essentially Gilead, right? That is again, the media does such a bad job giving people perspective on this stuff.
We've got about a minute left before we got to go to break. I do have a question for you. Your organization works, with the Supreme Court. You guys are kind of on the front lines. Do you see Roe versus Wade ever being overturned?
It gets dangerous. You start trying to predict what the Supreme Court's going to do, and then who's going to be on the Supreme Court. I think the Roberts Court seems to be not as willing to make big sweeping overturning decisions. What I think you might see, though, is that as these states continue passing restrictions on it and they keep getting challenged, if they keep coming to the Supreme Court, what you might see the Roberts Court do is uphold some of those restrictions, and so incrementally, instead of just coming right out and say Roe v. Wade's bad law and it's overturned and it goes back to the states, you guys figure it out. I think what they're probably more likely to do is take some cases, uphold some restrictions, not some others, and you start to see it get narrowed that way.
Yeah. All right, back in a minute.
It's just depressing. I think you're completely right.
No, I agree.
Carolina. How far?
Lathan still has a big story about, you said California, the very tolerant California.
Exactly.
And anti-Semitism to come in overtime. And also, you guys are in for a real treat next week. We've got Stu hosting all week. I'm going to be gone.
Huge honor for everyone.
I'm going to be out, so I think the ratings are going
And
to
he's wearing
skyrocket.
something lacy all week,
Yes.
just to fill in.
I have
So
to.
that's great.
If I host, I have to use Sarah's wardrobe.
Okay.
So,
You do. That's in the
like one of
contract.
rules. So I think
Very
I
exciting.
could pull off some of it.
Which parts?
Usually, like the short dresses, I look good in. Let's be honest about it. I mean, let's be frank.
You will shave your
Yeah,
legs.
my calves are a little big for your pants. But the
So
short
there will be
dresses I
some
can get away with.
stretching of your clothing involved when you get them back. But
You'll be able to fit your whole family inside most of your clothing.
So I'll need to wash on warm and also dry on high heat.
Yeah,
I need to try
whatever,
to get it back down to where it needed to be.
I'm lobbying right now to get on that show.
We've got Overtime starting next. You can watch it at blazetv.com. We'll see you there.
Remember what the closest